Was the hidden hand of Barack Obama at work to get Sanders out the race? Meaning, was Sanders pushed by Obama behind the scenes to time's up? Now, in 2016, that is literally what took place, with Obama kind of massaging Bernie Sanders. There was the meeting with him walking with his arm behind him, that type of stuff going on. This merger of the party, we're going to kind of bring these people together, that type of stuff. But what went on in 2020 when Sanders got out the race? And did Obama have anything to do with it? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say yes. Welcome to a late night soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal, Patreon. So, a video, Chris Hayes gets a really good question. Every so often, Chris Hayes asks a really good question. Sometimes he doesn't do the follow-up in the moment, but he asks really good questions sometimes. Sanders, have you spoken to former President Barack Hussein Obama?
Just to sort of confirm the reporting, have you talked to President Obama during this period of time?
Yes.
What have those conversations been like?
Well, they're private conversations, Chris.
Well, can I ask about your conversations with Vice President Biden?
Yes. Oh,
how have those been?
Yeah. Look, I'll give you a better answer, a more detailed answer.
Sanders, too classy to go into details. But whether Sanders goes into details or not, what do you think Obama is going to say to Sanders? I think it's time. He's going to say to Sanders the same thing that he said to Hillary Clinton on the night that she lost to Donald Trump. It's time. In the book Shattered, they talk about when Obama gives Hillary Clinton the call. And they're trying to get the phone to Clinton. Clinton doesn't want to take the phone. And there's this thing of like, no, you got to take the phone. It's the President Obama. You got to take the phone. You can't ignore the president's phone call. In which case, he's like, it's time. Call it a day. You've lost. We're going to have to find another way around it. Now, in this case, what do you think he's telling Sanders? Time to get out the race. You're 300 points behind. You're not going to be able to make up the delegates. You're in the middle of a pandemic, etc., etc. And this is coming from Obama. Sanders is getting pressure from the party. Let me say it this way. Do you believe Obama called Sanders and said, stay in the race? Fuck no. I don't think anybody believes Obama called Sanders and be like, yeah, stay in the race. Keep pushing that good fight, buddy. So if he didn't say that, was it a neutral call? Meaning, was he calling him just to be entirely neutral and, hey, how's it going, buddy? You doing all right? Yeah, I'm doing all right. How's Jane? Jane is doing okay. The dogs? Yeah, the dogs are great. Running a good race there. Thank you. I appreciate that. You have a good, strong following. Thank you. All right. If you need anything, let me know. I don't think Obama would make that call. Now, I could be entirely wrong. I don't know Obama. I'm just looking at the politics of the moment. He has a conversation with Obama. Why are you talking to Obama? Do you typically talk to Obama? If you don't typically talk to Obama, then Obama is calling you for a reason. Is it possible that Obama, within the context of that phone call, is saying, look, Sanders, it's time? Would Joe Biden call Obama to get Obama to make that phone call to Bernie Sanders? Why wouldn't he? Like, that's kind of my point, right? It seems weird to me that it would be a neutral call where you don't bring up the elephant in the room, the election. And it would be weird to me if he says stay in the race. So it seems like the only possible conversation that they could have is time for you to hit kick rocks, Sanders. Sanders nods out. Now, maybe not entirely because of the conversation with Obama, but I'm pretty sure that conversation with Obama didn't necessarily help. look, I'm apologizing now. I'm apologizing in advance. Sun conjunct Mercury. I work shit out in a communicative way. My wife hates it. My wife doesn't work stuff out in a communicative way. She needs to think about stuff and come up with answers on her own, left to her own devices. Me, I come up with my answers in the middle of the conversation. So I'm apologizing in advance. Because what's probably going to happen is my complex feelings about this election and trying to work through how I perceive this election, how, like, what I think went wrong, what I think was right, the lessons from it. I've learned so much from 2016 and 2020, and even 2008, going back to Obama's election. We should have learned from Obama in that. Sanders and Obama are fundamentally different characters. But from a perception standpoint, if you think back to it, Obama was Sanders. I shit you not. Think back to when Obama initially ran. He's a lefty, he's progressive, he's a radical. And they said he's risky. Now, Hillary Clinton was even making the argument, he's risky. The same argument, by the way, that was made about Sanders, he's risky. If you look at even the polling among people who are looking at Sanders and Warren, he's risky. Why? Only because he's out of kilter with the typical Democratic Party. This notion of incrementalism is so enshrined, this kind of deaden their expectations that the notion of somebody doing this big time politics doesn't apply. They look at it and find it to be a risk. The younger generation look at it and say, I have nothing to lose. So it's this kind of weird dichotomy. The catch here, though, is with Sanders making that particular case, they saw Joe Biden as being normal. That's the guy who's steady. That's the guy who we can trust. That's the typical Democrat. And missing the point with this kind of short-term weird memory thing that John Kerry lost, Al Gore lost, Hillary Clinton lost, all of these other people were just effectively Joe Biden's loss. Obama ran that race as the radical in the race. He ran that race as an insurgent candidate against the inevitable Hillary Clinton. She was inevitable back then too. And what did he do? Two things. Roaring speeches, just like Sanders, massive stadiums, these rousing speeches, we're going to have open change. And people are like, yes, Obama's going to unite the world. That's what he did. Those were the speeches that he ran. What does Sanders do? He go and give those rock star policy speeches about the things he wants to get accomplished. People lose their minds. Similar. Perception. But it doesn't matter, the substance. The similarities are in the way that they ran the race because nobody knew who the fuck Obama was when he first got into office. So the Sanders campaign is effectively very similar to the Obama campaign in the way that they were running the race. One major caveat. Obama wanted to be president since he was an infant. He knew it. He grew up, I'm going to be president one day. He just knew that. Even when he was smoking pot, he was getting, had the white woman, he knew it. I'm going to be fucking president one day. So for him, everything else was subordinate to becoming president. So yeah, he gave those barn burner speeches, he gave those rousing, massive applause and everything else, but he also was absolutely willing to put a knife in Hillary Clinton because he understood that you needed to do both. Both things were part of your toolkit. You can stand there and you can be kind of above it all. At the same token, you're jabbing your opponent. Hillary Clinton is willing to say anything. Hillary Clinton will say anything to get elected. Hillary Clinton is a liar. Brutal smash mouth politics. Why? He wanted to be president, and everything else mattered less to him becoming president. That's not the way Sanders functioned, though. For Sanders, ideology mattered more. And so the same ideology that would allow him to go to Congress and allow him to, be curmudgeon and not necessarily fold in regards to his principles, reason we love him, is the same stubbornness that says, I can't hit my buddy. That part burns. Look, I'm okay losing. Like I said, I apologize in advance. There's going to be shit to work through. I'm okay losing. If you and I are in a game of chess and you beat me, fair enough. It's something else to not fight. That's different. I don't know if it's just a difference in looking at this or what. I mean, I look at this as ideological warfare. Not necessarily where you're taking up arms, but definitely in a sense where you have a clear ideological difference of opinion in regards to how society should be structured and how we should operate our affairs in regards to the state. You have one group that says it should be in the hands of capital. Markets should effectively dominate everything. We just want markets to dominate everything. It's a religious belief, but they run with it as if that's the natural, normal way of things. You, calling yourself a democratic socialist, don't think that way. You think that people are more important than their profits. And I agree with you because, human beings have thoughts, human beings have feelings, human beings are real things. Cash is not real. That's an ideological struggle. That's an ideological battle. That's not waged with the Republican Party. That's waged in the Democratic Party. Meaning, if you acknowledge that and you realize that, then this is not, Joe Biden is not a friend of yours at that point. Joe Biden is a contestant in a game. That's all he is. Whatever tricks, tools, whatever you need to do to put a knife in him, all of that stuff is fair game under the law, is at your disposal and should be used to do so. It's just the rules of the game. Your opponent will do just that because your opponent understands that these are parts of the game space. If you choose not to do that, that's a poor choice on your side. It's the not fighting thing. I think that's the thing that gets me. Like, to me, I don't know. Part of me feels conned, and part of me feels like I look at it and think, if you were trying to get something accomplished, whatever that is, I don't know what that is. Let's say Medicare for all. And the Democratic Party and the main candidate, you say, your argument is, look, the public agrees with it by 9 points more, meaning the overwhelming majority of the public agrees, Republican, Independent, and Democrats. The overwhelming majority of Democrats agree with it. What's your issue of being against it? And Joe Biden says, no. And your response is, okay, I'll vote for you anyway. You will never get what you want. Like, you've put yourself in somewhat of a situation where you're not powerless. There are maneuvers to be had. There's things that you can do, but that requires a certain degree of organization. That organization was best potential, anyway, by Sanders. Sanders had options. I know a lot of people are saying, right now, the Sunrise Movement, I think it's 7 other youth groups, have effectively said, we have $100 million that we have at our disposal. And we want Joe Biden to get on board for Green New Deal, Medicare for all, getting rid of student debt, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, all right. And if he tells you, go fuck yourself, what do you do? If you say, okay, I'll vote for you anyway, then what was the point of making the demand? I hope you understand what I mean. This is not about stopping Donald Trump. Your objective should be about getting policy accomplished. You're not going to do this in the fires of an election. But if you had the capability of saying no en masse, you have the potential to get something done, even if it's not necessarily winning this particular election. What you're looking for is leverage. They're never going to give you anything in a political space without leverage. Leverage is to some degree given by you having something that can hurt. Meaning the potential for a lose-lose-win situation where, yes, we both lose, but the fact that you lost, I win. My objective was to make sure that you lost because you're doing something that I don't particularly like that you are doing. And if you're going to insist on doing so, then both of us lose. I win because of such. The Vietnam War, for example. We killed millions of the Vietnamese. The United States lost that war. The United States lost that war because it couldn't accomplish its objectives. The same thing remains true in political combat or ideological combat, or in this particular case, if you're trying to get something accomplished and invoke some level of leverage in regards to influence, the political space. Influence, however, requires a certain degree of credibility. And because over the last 40, 50 years, the left has always acquiesced, there is no credibility in regards to the left. Meaning your credibility needs to be to some degree built up with the willingness to be able to say, go fuck yourself. I want Medicare for all. I want to get rid of student debt. Those are the bare minimum things that I'm willing to accept. Anything else, I'm out. Until you do that, nothing changes. Honestly, consider what I am saying here, because what I'm saying is absolutely correct. Until you do that, nothing changes. They don't believe you. You're maligned. You're attacked. Do you realize that they believe so fervently that you will fall in line and support their candidate, Joe Biden, this crippled man that they threw in as a sacrificial lamb in order to stop Sanders, to sop up the black vote, like, mashed potatoes and gravy. They were willing to put him up there, knowing that his potential to beat Trump is probably the least of many of those other candidates. That party is not going to give you anything. I guess that's kind of my point, right? You have, the party's not going to give you anything. You're in a situation where if you want to get anything accomplished, you need to be able to exert leverage. For 40 years, 50 years, you have acquiesced. That party so fervently believed that you are willing to fall in line, that they were willing to absolutely skip attacking Sanders and attack you directly. Think about that. Think about that. Think about what that means. Like, I don't think you realize how mind-blowing that is, because it happened so often and it went on for so long that it became somewhat of a normal thing that we had to deal with. But they went from attacking Sanders to attacking his supporters. That's mind-blowing. His supporters, people that they will need to get elected, that they are right now trying to schmooze and say, hey, it's okay, like after a battered wife trying to, suck up after you punched her in the eye. Now they're trying to schmooze. But for months on end, they call you racist, sexist, bigoted. They say you are abusive to women. They say you are angry. I mean, they were relentless, and this went on for months. Elizabeth Warren joined in on the chorus. The other candidates joined in on the chorus. All of these people joined in on the chorus. There was nothing unique about Sanders supporters at all. And yet, that was the narrative. That was the narrative they went with in stereo. Attacking, not Sanders, but again, us. They would never do that if they thought you'd walk. Think of the level of disrespect that's associated with that. I need you to internalize that. That's kind of my point. Like, what you've seen take place in this primary process doesn't take place if they respected you. They don't respect you because they understand that you will always knuckle under because the left has nowhere else to go. My point to you is, it is time to fucking walk, to make your demands in regards to what you want regarding policy, and stick with those demands and stop the race to the bottom nonsense. The groups, the youth groups that are effectively saying, this is what we want. If those youth groups are willing to say, this is what we want, and we're going to put our money into causes associated with this. If you don't back this, we will not back you. In fact, we may even attack you. That's smash mouth politics. Yes, that's a lose-lose, but it's a lose-lose win in the sense that they understand you're not fucking around. And maybe you need to build some level of credibility because for the last 40, 50 years, you've lost it all. I hope you understand what I mean. This is not about one election. Think about what I am saying and the way I'm talking about politics over the course of 20, 30 years, as opposed to just this one immediate election, because there will be another election and there will be another election. Go back to Clinton for the moment. What if it's politics in the way I'm thinking of politics? You get to a certain point where these are the things that we want, or we walk. Now, that's not necessarily going to be everything that you want, but the point is that you have policy priorities that you're willing to go to the mat for. You're willing to tear shit down for. You're willing to leave. You're willing to make them lose if that's the only power that you have. It's a power nonetheless, right? No, I can't have the ability to win, or I don't have the ability to win, but I do have the ability to make you lose. That's called leverage. That leverage needs a certain degree of credibility associated with it, that you're willing to exercise that leverage. But again, that's built up over time, and that leverage or that credibility has been lost. Not just that, there is no vehicle for the left to effect that, which is the other sad part. It's one thing if the left chose 3 topics: Medicare for all, Green New Deal, getting rid of student debt. This is our platform. Everybody who wants and believes in this, join in. And in doing so, hell, add in security measures associated with the like the internet or whatever else. But that's your platform. Those are the things that you push for. Those are the things you fight for. And you get the largest coalition that you can possibly get across the board: Republicans, Democrats, Independents, that believe in those particular things. They're just basic policy. You don't give a fuck about the party. In fact, at some point, you may end up being your own party just because of the organization and the number of people that may join you in that particular pursuit. But that's not something that takes place tomorrow. That's something that takes place over time. The potential for this kind of one glorious election where an FDR character rides in the office and starts, kicking people in the face. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. I don't believe our pursuits are in the political space. And maybe that was my folly. And maybe it's not a folly at all. Actually, Sanders had chances. And if Sanders got in office, Sanders would have been able to effect change. I mean, for fuck's sake, the entire party apparatus turned around in order to stop him. And there have been gains in regards to Sanders. So whatever I feel about Sanders and whatever my complicated feelings about Sanders, the complication has to do with it that it's not all bad. It's a contradiction of sorts. There are these good things and there's these bad things. And my own psyche and the way that I process the world and process games is how he ran this race doesn't compute. That's all. I'll end it here. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.